Good evening, everyone, and thank you for watching NBC6 Voices on our Facebook and YouTube pages. I'm Jawan Strader. Well, we're closely watching what's happening in Haiti while they suffer from the devastating effects of a powerful 7.2 magnitude earthquake and brace for a tropical storm. The latest death toll is at 1,941 people. There are lots of ways that you can help Haiti in their time of need. Haiti Community Trust is partnering with Miami-Dade County to support the relief efforts. And for a list of other organizations helping with the earthquake relief, you can visit us online at NBC6.com or the NBC6 app. And next week at the same time, we will be talking about what's happening in Haiti more in depth and provide more ways on how you can help. But tonight, we're talking about heading back to school. Everyone's talking about it. It's that time of year again, but school looks a little different because kids are returning during a pandemic. So here in Florida, returning back to school with masks or not has been a large, drawn-out debate with state leaders and county school boards. In addition to the battle of the masks, kids are contracting COVID-19 at alarming rates, and children are making up an increasing amount of cases here in Florida. More than 13,500 children under 12 have tested positive for the virus. And just a month ago, about 2,100 kids died from COVID, making that a 550% increase in cases. But despite the alarming rates, Governor Ron DeSantis is standing firm on parents being able to make decisions for their children on whether they mask up or not, and has implemented an executive order for masks to be optional in Florida schools. Now, some parents in Florida are going as far as to sue Governor DeSantis in federal court over his attempt to block mask mandates. Here with me tonight to talk more about this is the McCarthy family. There are a group of parents suing the governor. Please welcome them to the show tonight. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
We really appreciate you. Well, I want to ask you about your situation. Tell me, why is it that you decided to pursue this lawsuit?
I mean, I think we saw the executive order and we knew that it wasn't right. And we knew we had to protect our child. Our child has asthma. And if he goes to school in an unmasked environment, he could lose his life. So it's literally a matter of life and death.
Well, let's talk about your child. Your child is 6 years old right now. He's precious. That's him right there. I see him on his iPad. My two kids got one of those things as well. But your son suffers from asthma. So what is your biggest fear with him going back to school during COVID?
Well, the biggest fear is that they let kids in that have COVID and they're not wearing a mask and it spreads, gets in the air. And then when it gets in the air, other students catch it or teachers catch it, it gets back in the community, and we have a pandemic now here now. I mean, look what's happening in Miami Children's Hospital. It's gotten completely out of control. So we would like to trust the scientists, because what I'm seeing is that people that are catching it weren't trusting the scientists, and now they're running to the hospitals. They want to trust the science once they catch it. We don't want our son catching this at all.
I think that's our biggest fear, is we don't want our son catching it, and there's not an infrastructure in place now in the hospitals. They're running out of medicine, they're running out of ICU beds, so it's a really scary situation.
Well, John and Robin, the governor, he has his own thoughts on why he believes that parents should make the decision. Here's what he had to say about masks.
Our view is, of course, that we believe this is a decision for the parent to make.
So that's the governor. That's how he feels about this. He believes that this is a decision for the parents to make, that there shouldn't be a mandate in place here in the state of Florida. What are your thoughts?
Well, this should never have come to this. It's gotten to a point where here in Miami-Dade County, we have so many cases where he's up, there's not as many cases. I understand that because we're the most populated area in the state of Florida. And I think we're the fourth largest school district in the United States. So what we have to say to that is we're not trying to make this a political thing. We want all our children safe. We want our teachers safe. And if we can keep politics out of this would be great. We want to be there for our children. We don't want any children catching this, whether in North Florida where they don't have a lot of cases, or South Florida where they have cases. We don't want any cases, and we want to trust the science and let our professionals do their jobs in the best way they think they can do it to protect our children.
Our kid has a right to a safe education just like everybody else, and when a parent's choice could cost somebody else's kid their lives, it's no longer a choice anymore. And I also want to say that we were just told that Governor DeSantis' child is going to be homeschooled this year, which is pretty telling. So he's not even sending his own kid to school that's of school age, is what we were just told. So, take it for what it's worth.
What do you think about what Broward County is doing? They decide to go against the governor, and Broward County School Board voted to go ahead and move forward with that mask mandate. What do you think about what they're doing?
I mean, they had 3 teachers die in the past couple of days. I mean, we don't want anybody dying from this. This can be prevented. The last year when the way they set up the protocols, it was safe. Let's just continue this until we get all the children vaccinated. They're able to, because our son isn't able to get vaccinated, and move forward, get it over with, be done with it, and move on. So, as you know, when the hurricanes come here, everybody comes together. We don't make it a different, I'm for the hurricane, I'm against the hurricane. It's all about trying to keep safety. And this is what we want. We want safe schools here. And
I would say that Dr. Osgood is my hero. She's our hero. She's speaking up and saving children's lives. So what she's doing is commendable, and everyone else should follow through with it, because she can sleep at night. This is literally children's lives at risk. So I am so relieved and happy that Broward stood up, and I hope other districts follow.
Amen to that. McCarthy family, I want to thank you guys so much for joining me tonight.
Judge sees the same thing. The judge rules in our favor, or the school district does as well. I think that it's very important to keep our children safe. If we don't look out for our children, I feel like I'm in a twilight zone sometimes. Like when we're putting our children in harm's way. Where's this ever been heard of in the United States?
Well, it's interesting. You mentioned it real fast before I let you guys go. You mentioned that this has turned political. Does it surprise you that this has turned political? I mean, that we've made an issue about health political?
Yes, it does. I mean, there's a lot of people here that I know on both sides of the street, and they all agree that it's a mask. It's about saving kids. It should not be political. This should be about doing the right thing. My grandpa used to say, my grandpa came over here from Ireland. He says, do the right thing and everything will fall into place. So that's what we got to do. We got to do the right thing to keep our children safe.
I mean, we are surprised, because this is literally a pandemic. It's literally lives at risk. So I'm not understanding how this is at all political. And thank God that Dr. Osgood is doing the right thing, and we hope our Superintendent Carvalho also follows with this. And, we just pray that all the children are safe.
All right. Well, John and Robin McCarthy, we wish you the best. And most importantly, we wish your little one, your 6-year-old, nothing but health and a great school year this year.
Thank you so much.
We're praying. Thank you. We really are.
Amen. A lot of us are. We thank you. And you heard the McCarthy family talk a lot about Dr. Osgood. And with that said, we would like to bring Dr. Osgood on our show tonight. Dr. Osgood is a member of the Broward County School Board and has been very, very outspoken on where she stands on mask policies for students. Dr. Osgood, welcome to the show tonight.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And, I have the honor of serving with some tremendous women who care about students. 8 out of the 9 members of our school board has agreed that we're going to move forward and open schools on tomorrow with a mask mandate. We believe that it is the best way for us to move forward. We believe that it allows us to use all of the mitigation tools that we have in our toolboxes: vaccinations, masks, washing our hands, and social distancing. We have come to the conclusion that the lives of our students and our staffs are invaluable, and we're not going to be bullied into any other decisions. We're going to make decisions that we feel we have been elected to make to protect those in our school system. We had the call today. There was a hearing with the Department of Education, and they voted to have the Commissioner of Education move forward with some type of possible sanction or some action against the school board. We will, fight that action, whatever it is, in court. But tomorrow we are longing to see our students and our staff back to school face to face in our loving school communities on our buses. And we are ensuring that we're doing everything we can, from adding different systems in to make sure that we have quality air, to cleanliness that we've put in place, to today voting to approve an item for staff to receive, a permanent staff to receive a $250 incentive to be vaccinated, and they have to show full proof of that by October 20th, and mandating masks to protect those children that are 12 and under. We have around 40,000 of them that do not have a vaccination option at this time. So we believe that we should use all of the mitigation tools in our toolbox to protect the staff and the students that we love so dearly in Broward County Public Schools.
Dr. Osgood, was this a tough decision for you personally at all, especially when the threats of Governor DeSantis came down?
No, because at the end of the day, for me personally, I have a moral obligation. You know, I have a higher calling and a higher being, which I call God, that I have to be responsive to. I have to be able to sleep at night. And the threats and the bullying from the governor and from Tallahassee, it's actually been unbelievable. I just can't wrap my mind around it. I'm in Broward County. We've had, people to die in our schools. I lost someone that I know personally, a family of one of the teachers that recently died. I'm seeing people get impacted with COVID and being left with lifelong implications. I'm talking to parents who are afraid for their children to come back into schools without using masks. I'm talking to staff, educators, bus drivers, cafeteria workers who are just willing to work because they love the children, but want to have masks as a means of protection. So I don't understand how we're at this point in time, Jawan, where we are going backwards in history. We have a local citizenry that elected local school board members to make policies and govern school districts. So now we have an administration in Tallahassee that's literally taken away the rights, the voting rights of our citizens by saying, we don't care who you elected. We don't care what your local school board. We don't care about home rule. We don't care about the people in Broward County that's dying from COVID. We're going to hang our hat on this parents' right. And I think you heard the McCarthys as they talked about what about their rights? What about the rights of all those parents who want masks mandated in school, who have children with asthma and other pre-existing conditions? So it is a balance, and we have to make a decision for all of our students. And we believe that that decision is best for us to use all of the mitigation tools that we have in place: vaccinations, mandatory masks, social distancing when we can, because we know with 27, 28 people in the classroom, you can't practice 6 feet of social distancing. You certainly can't do it with 40, 50 kids on a bus, and washing our hands and encouraging members in our community to get vaccinated.
And we did hear from the McCarthys, but there are also other parents out there that disagree. Some parents out there had this to say in regards to a mask mandate. Let's listen.
If people want to wear masks, that's absolutely up to their choice to do that. But as a parent who does not want their kid wearing a mask, we should have a choice as well. It shouldn't just be one-sided.
You heard from that parent right there. It should not just be one-sided. It should be a choice. It should be a choice whether or not my child wears a mask. What do you have to say to that?
Well, I think about when I put my 6-year-old granddaughter, Kyla, and my 17-month-old grandson, Gabe, into a car. I have to put them in a seatbelt, whether I want to or not. Even when I just got my nails done, I have to put them in that seatbelt. I don't have a choice. It's to protect them. It's to save their lives. I believe that our individual rights have a limit when my individual rights is going to put other people at harm, put their life on the line, risk their lives. I don't think any one person's individual rights supersedes the rights of hundreds of other people to be alive and be protected from COVID by using a mask.
Okay, well, you touched on it a little bit. You talked about the governor's threats. We already know about potential punishments that may come against the Broward School District because of the fact that there's a mandate in place. So I want to know from you if those threats do in turn become true and salaries are slashed, board members, teachers, or the district. Are you guys at all worried about that as a district?
Well, of course we are. We don't want money taken from the general fund, from our classrooms, from our teachers. As school board members, we really work hard. We don't want to continue to see policies come down in a punitive way that set this nation back. We've already addressed this issue about working people without paying them, especially people that look like me. You know, some of our forefathers went through that where they worked for hundreds of years without a paycheck. We don't want to go back to that. We have our different labor unions that have fought for people have the right to get paid. But we also believe in this community. This community is a resilient community. We've made it through some really, really tough and difficult times. I certainly believe in my community, and I believe without a shadow of a doubt that if I need to go next door to get a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, or I need to knock on somebody's door to give me some of their collard greens out of the pot, they'll do that. I just believe that when you do the right thing, your needs will be met and you will have what you need to make it. It is awful to be in this position. It really is. It causes you to lose sleep at night. It's very taxing emotionally. We're already dealing with the trauma of the pandemic. Many families are mourning. The community is dealing with the loss of loved ones to COVID. And now we have this retaliatory attack on us from Tallahassee. We would really just want to focus on getting our kids back to school, loving them, focusing on education, and helping our kids prepare for their future. But we're not allowed to do that. It's a lot of time and energy that we're putting into this mask thing, and we're just not going to waver on it because we believe with everything that we got, it is the right decision for the students and staff and the people of Broward County.
Hey, man, Dr. Osgood, I really thank you so much for your leadership. And it takes a lot of guts to be on any school board with any leadership. So we really thank you. And as you mentioned, I mean, just one child dying is like a million. And one child having COVID is hard enough. And as you heard the numbers that I said at the top of the show, 13,500 children under the age of 12 tested positive for the virus and 2,100 died. That's just far too many. And so it's just definitely something that we want to put an end to. I want to thank you so much for coming on our show tonight.
Thank you, Juwan. And it's just a risk that we're not willing to take. We won't play Russian roulette with the lives of the people that we love.
Amen to that. Dr. Osgood, thank you. And we wish you a very good and prosperous school year.
Thank you.
You got it. Now let's bring in a teacher, Simone Russell. Ms. Russell is a teacher at Pine Strider Middle School, and she's been on the show before. You may recognize her. Welcome to the show, Simone.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be back, but we're discussing not so pleasant circumstances. So
right. Well, listen, you taught seventh grade during the pandemic, virtually and in person.
Hybrid.
So hybrid. Now you're back. You're headed back to the classroom. So what are your thoughts on the mask mandates?
I am so happy and so proud to be an educator in Broward. And, you know, my heart goes out to my fellow colleagues that are teaching in various counties that either didn't have the support or couldn't go without the funding. But for right now, I am happy that at least Broward County has that. We can go to sleep tonight and kind of prepare for the first day and at least know that there are standard, like, you know, step one measures in place that the children will be masked. You know, Dr. Osgood touched on the ability to social distance when you have a large group. She touched on some of the other things like if it's possible to social distance in like the cafeteria or on the bus and things like that. But for the most part, just step one, having the masks, we can at least arrive tomorrow with a little bit, you know, feel safer.
Well, you heard from Dr. Osgood a little bit earlier. What are your thoughts on the mask mandates in Broward County? And they are defying the governor in having these mask mandates.
You know, it's a little good trouble it's a little good. Yes, we're defying the governor, but it's the right thing to do. You played a video where a parent was talking about choice and saying that if masks are about choice, and if some parents choose not to let their child wear the mask, then that should be respected. Fair point. If there wasn't a pandemic going on, right? We don't choose who gets the experience being in the pandemic. Unfortunately, we're all in this, and it's a contagious disease that's going around, and it's the most basic instinct. You cough, you cover your mouth. The mask now is this built-in mechanism to keep your mouth covered. I agree with defying the governor on this one. I am happy that they did, and I hope they stand firm.
I want to know what you're doing as a teacher. I mean, you're going back to the classroom. What are you doing in order not only to protect yourself, but also to protect the students?
I have distance out. This week we went in for pre-planning. We set up our classrooms, but we did it a little bit differently. We spaced out the desks with the 3 feet CDC recommendation. I'm also going to have an area for gloves in case we have to touch something and the children are not comfortable with it. I'm also creating a space in the back and front of my classroom for children who actually would rather just be isolated from everyone. They're not comfortable having even a 3-foot neighbor because we keep talking about choice, and we're not talking about the fact that a lot of students are not happy with the choice to return. Last year, they could have, if they were comfortable, they could stay home. Everyone must return this year. And there are a lot of children who are afraid, mask or no mask. So I am trying to make sure that I can create the most comfortable, safe environment for them. So as I said, alternative seating. I will be very, very fluid with email communication. I will have glove stations. I have backup masks. I have PPE. I have Lysol wipes. I'm also going to be requesting donations from parents because, you need some help all the time with that. But I'm creating a classroom and modeling for the students that I'm taking this serious. And when I model that it's serious, then they can do nothing else but follow my lead.
And what will be your biggest challenge as an educator during this time of COVID going back to school?
Believe it or not, I think the one aspect that no one can prepare us for, not even our administration, is that children are sponges. They're aware of this debate and the divide. And I am a little bit worried about students who are defiant about the mask, who have been, they're sponges and they're young, and sometimes they repeat things that they hear at home without really having that life experience to decide, do I want to, internalize this ideology myself? So I'm a little bit apprehensive about how to deal with a situation that presents itself if I have someone who is defiant of wearing the mask and putting everyone else in danger.
Well, Simone, we definitely wish you the best on this school year. Of course, I know we're going to follow up with you and see how things are, probably somewhere in between, to see how things are going. And we know everything is evolving still as this thing continues to exist and
it continues to evolve.
It does. I mean, we've never experienced this before. Unless you could say that you were alive during the Spanish flu, but
yes, I was.
Yeah, I don't think you were either. But we wish you the best on a healthy and a great school year, and we appreciate all you and other educators do for our community.
Thank you so much, and thank you to NBC6 for your continued concern about our local schools.
Amen.
It's it's empowering. We know that at least NBC6 is going to get the word out and talk to us. Even the fact to take time to interview a teacher is important because at no point have educators been consulted about this entire process.
Amen. All right, Simone, thank you. Thank you very much. And we will be in touch. You got it. Well, the big question out there now is, what are doctors saying about all of this? What are they saying about the rise of COVID in kids? So with that said, please welcome to the show, Dr. Carlo Zayden-Weber. He is a pediatric cardiologist with Kids Medical Services. Dr. Zayden-Weber, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Schrader, for having me here. I appreciate it.
Doctor, I want to ask you first and foremost, what are you seeing in kids and COVID?
Well, to be honest with you, I am very, very concerned. I have been concerned throughout the entire pandemic, but the past couple of weeks, I personally have seen an explosion of cases of COVID, and I'm very, very worried. Just today, for example, I heard we had a baby in the neonatal intensive care unit at Bethesda that developed COVID from the mother and just passed away today. I hear about cases all day long, patients going to the emergency room, me having to evaluate patients with COVID because, as you know, I'm a pediatric cardiologist and COVID can affect the children's hearts. So I get very frequently called in to see these patients. And so I'm just seeing COVID left and right everywhere I turn. I get phone calls for COVID. What do I do about the vaccination? And I wasn't seeing this even 3 weeks ago. I am very concerned now that the schools are opening, how serious this is going to get.
And doctor, why are the rates rising so fast, especially when it comes to children?
Well, I think part of the reason definitely is the Delta variant. The Delta variant has arrived in Florida. It's very clear, and it's a lot more contagious, and so people are getting it more. I think people are not being careful anymore. A lot of people have COVID fatigue, so they don't really care if they get it or not. At the beginning of the pandemic last March, everybody was at home. Now everybody's out. Nobody cares. Even now, to be having this discussion whether we should be wearing masks or not in school, to me is absolutely ridiculous. We shouldn't be having these discussions. It should be absolutely mandatory that every kid that goes to school should wear a mask. A lot of the kids, unfortunately, the vaccine is not available for kids that are 12 and younger. So those kids are getting COVID with the Delta variant, and it's just a fact.
And Dr. Zayden Weber, should parents be concerned about their kids heading back to school?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm a parent myself. I'm terrified to send my kids back to school. Last year, I kept them virtual the whole year. This year, the option is not available. I almost wish that it was available because I am very concerned with all the kids coming back to school that we're going to see an even bigger explosion of cases in South Florida. In my opinion, South Florida right now is the epicenter of the whole pandemic. We're seeing an alarming rate of cases.
And what are some ways that kids then can protect themselves? And what would you recommend? Because like you said, that option isn't available. We know that kids are headed back to the classrooms. So what advice do you have for parents in protecting their kids?
I mean, obviously the mask. I mean, the mask is something that we shouldn't even be discussing. Every kid should wear a mask, social distancing, washing your hands, try to do activities that are not indoors. And the pandemic has changed. I mean, maybe 2 or 3 months ago, things were not as bad. Right now, they're really bad. I already stopped going to restaurants, especially indoor restaurants. So if you're going to do activities, kids need to socialize, do things outside. Don't do activities inside. Wash your hands and be mindful of others. I think we live in a very selfish society, and people care about themselves. And unfortunately, with this pandemic, if we don't care about each other, we're never going to get over it. Listen, nobody likes to wear masks, but we just live in this time that you have to wear them. It's that simple.
What do you think about the fact, doctor, that this has become a political issue?
I think it's very sad, honestly. And listen, I'm not going to tell you what party I am affiliated to, but the reality is that this should not be a political issue. And even President Biden said it. It's not a political issue. The vaccine was created by Republicans. It started being administered by Republicans, and now we are administering. Even he said it. It's not a political situation. It's about the safety of our kids, which are our most precious thing that we have. And if we lose one kid, just one, because somebody decided not to wear a mask, it's ridiculous.
And you mentioned that about the kids. If we lose just one,
right. We're going to lose more than one. Yeah, exactly. We're going to lose more than one. We're already losing. I told you just today I saw about a baby that's less than 2 kilos that died in Bethesda, and there's going to be more, unfortunately.
And I wanted to ask you to see a child go through COVID. For all those people out there, because we don't talk enough about that, but children that are fighting COVID,
yeah,
it's happening. It's happening.
Yes.
And tell me what you're seeing when you're seeing a kid with COVID.
Well, listen, it's so variable, unfortunately. If you're a kid, the majority of kids can have COVID, they don't know about it. But unfortunately, some kids get really sick. And it's very hard to predict which kid is the one that's going to get really sick. There's kids in the ICU in St. Mary's, for example. There's one whole unit that's dedicated for COVID in kids. We weren't seeing this 6 months ago or even 3 months ago. It's sad. We're seeing kids who are hospitalized with pneumonia. We're seeing there is a syndrome called MISC, which is an inflammatory syndrome in which patients get COVID and then they recover from COVID, and several weeks later, they start having inflammation all over their body, and they end up having to be in the hospital for several days, requiring a lot of medication. Some of them even end up in the ICU requiring drips of medication to help their heart. So, I mean, it's a big spectrum, very variable, but like, it's very sad to see that some of these kids are getting really sick. And honestly, if it was my kid, I would be devastated. And I want parents out there to know that if your kid is in the hospital, it's a very bad thing. And the other thing is, like, and I hate to say this, but patients who have COVID, children, like, they don't get as good care as other kids, because even doctors are scared to going into the patients who have COVID into the room. So we do it, but I don't think they even get the care that they should be getting, because even doctors are terrified of getting this disease.
Dr. Zayden Weber, thank you so much for your insight. Again, you're a doctor, you've seen this, and you just mentioned, you touched on some examples, especially involving a young child, a baby. So I'm sorry to interrupt. I do want to say that, I mean, we're not at the point that the hospitals are overwhelmed, and I want parents to know that. But the truth of for children, but what I want parents to know is that it doesn't take much for the hospital to get overwhelmed. Like, let's say we have 100 kids who are very sick with COVID in the hospital. That's too many cases, and that would completely overwhelm the entire Palm Beach County. So it really doesn't take much for the system to get overwhelmed. Amen. Amen. No, very true. Very true. And I'm glad you touched on that as well. I really thank you so much for your insight, Doctor, and we wish you nothing but the best as well. Thank you for joining our show tonight.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And thank you for letting me say my message.
Amen. And I want to thank all of you for tuning in tonight. Of course, this is a hot button issue. It's not going anywhere. Of course, we're going to continue to talk about this issue here on NBC6 as well as NBC6 Voices. And I want to thank all of you for joining us tonight. You can catch or rewatch this episode on our Facebook and YouTube pages. And it will be airing this Saturday as well at 9:30 a.m. Be sure to follow me on Instagram and Facebook at JuanNBC6 and shoot me a text if you have, or inbox me if you have a story idea. And before we go, remember, education is the key to success. If you believe, you will succeed. We'll see you next time. Have a great week.